cost of a broken word. Thank you for joining me. I'm Palmer Weichmims, and these are my stories. I hope you enjoy them, and if so, hit that like button and please click the subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and you'll be notified when we drop a new story. Join us every Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday for new journeys. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy today's narrative. Part 1. The Architect of an Illusion. They say a secret is a beautiful thing until you have to live inside it. For Kim, the secret had a name, Mikal. Kim was a woman who prided herself on her precision. As a high-end interior architect, she understood how to build structures that were both beautiful and hollow. But she had begun to apply those skills to her own life. Her husband, Craig, was a man of steady rhythms, a software engineer who loved her with a quiet, predictable devotion. He was the kind of man who remembered to check the tire pressure on her car and always made sure the coffee was ready before she woke up. But Kim didn't want safety. She wanted fire. Then came Mikal. They met at a development summit. He was the lead contractor on a downtown project, a man with silver-flecked hair and a voice that sounded like velvet over gravel. Mikal didn't just walk into a room, he claimed it. And from the moment their eyes met over a set of blueprints, Kim felt the structural integrity of her marriage begin to fail. "We aren't like them, Kim," Mikal would whisper in the dark of a mid-afternoon hotel room. "Monique doesn't understand the man I've become. She's part of the old version of me. You are the future." Part 2, the January Pact. Kim didn't wait for the morning. She didn't wait for the right mood. She sat Craig down on the sofa where they had watched a decade of movies, shared 1,000 mundane conversations, and planned a future that was now a corpse. "I'm leaving, Craig," she said. Her voice wasn't shaking. It was cold, clinical, the voice of an architect condemning a building. "The papers are in my bag. I've already signed a lease on a studio downtown." Craig looked at her, his face a mask of confusion that slowly curdled into horror. "Is this a joke? Kim, we just spent Christmas with your parents. We talked about the renovation. We talked about nothing," Kim snapped, the venom finally leaking through. "We talked about tile samples and interest rates. I have been a ghost in this house for 3 years, Craig. I am done playing the role of the supportive wife while my soul is starving." "Is there someone else?" Craig's voice was a ragged whisper. When Kim didn't answer, he slammed his hand against the doorframe. "Answer me. Is it Mikal, the contractor? I saw the way you looked at your phone every time a notification popped up. I chose to trust you. I chose to believe you were just stressed." "It doesn't matter who it is," Kim said, standing to face him. "What matters is that I am choosing me. I am choosing a life that actually has a pulse. You are a good man, Craig. But you are a boring man, and I can't stay here and wait to die with you." The silence that followed was heavier than the words. Craig looked at her as if he were seeing a monster wearing his wife's skin. He didn't beg. He didn't cry. He simply walked to the closet, grabbed his coat, and left. The sound of the front door clicking shut was the loudest noise Kim had ever heard. She was free, or so she thought. Part 3, the Confrontation in the Rain. 2 weeks later, the great realignment was supposed to be complete, but Mikal hadn't moved a single box. He sat behind the wheel of his car, refusing to look at Kim. "You said January, Mikal," Kim hissed, her voice vibrating with a frantic energy. "I left him. I told him everything. I'm living out of suitcases in a place that smells like damp carpet, and you're still going to Sunday brunch with Monique?" "It's not that simple, Kim," Mikal said, his voice low and defensive. She's suspicious. If I leave now, she'll go for the throat. She'll take the firm. She'll turn the kids against me. I need time to insulate the assets." "Assets?" Kim laughed, a sharp, hysterical sound. "I traded my husband's heart for your assets? You told me you loved me. You told me I was the only thing that made your life worth living." "I do love you," Mikal said, but he didn't move toward her. "But I have a life, Kim. A real life, with roots and consequences. You just walked away. I have to dismantle an empire." "You're a coward," Kim whispered. "You're staying because it's easy. You used me to get through the boring parts of your marriage, and now that it's time to pay the bill, you're checking your pockets for change." "Don't do this," Mikal warned. "I told you I'd get there. Just wait." "I am done waiting in the dark, Mikal," Kim screamed, slamming her fist against the dashboard. I destroyed a good man for you. I have nothing. Do you understand that? I have nothing. Mikal didn't reach out to comfort her. He just checked his watch. I have to get back. Monique expects me for dinner. We'll talk tomorrow. He unlocked the doors. The click was a dismissal. Kim stepped out into the freezing rain, watching the red taillights of his SUV disappear into the fog. She stood there, drenched and hollow, finally realizing that she hadn't been an architect of a new life. She had been the demolition crew for a man who never intended to build anything at all. Part 4. The Dark Descent. Desperation has a specific sound. It's the sound of a phone ringing into the void over and over again. 3 months after the Great Realignment collapsed, Kim hit her absolute floor. The silence of her studio was no longer peaceful. It was a weight. She had tried to call Mikal 6 times that day. Each time, it went straight to a voicemail that had been changed, a professional, crisp recording of his voice that offered no room for intimacy. Then she did the one thing she promised herself she would never do. She dialed Craig. She didn't hang up. She couldn't. She needed to hear a voice that didn't lie to her, even if it was just a recording. Craig, she whispered into the receiver, her voice breaking. It's me. I know I have no right, but I'm sitting here, and I realize I threw away the only person who actually saw me. Mikal isn't coming. He never was. I was a fool, Craig. I am so sorry. Please, just tell me you're okay. Tell me there's a way to forgive this. She waited for a call back. She waited for 3 days. She carried her phone into the shower. She slept with it gripped in her hand like a talisman. On the 4th day, she received a text, not from Craig, but from his lawyer. Please refrain from contacting my client. Any further communication will be viewed as harassment and will be documented for the finalization of the divorce settlement. Regards. Kim dropped the phone. It didn't break, but the screen cracked, a jagged spiderweb across the glass. She realized then that Craig wasn't just gone. He had erased her. She wasn't a villain to him anymore. She was a liability. She was a case file. She had burned down her house to be with a man who wouldn't even let her into his foyer, and now the man who had once built that house was changing the locks and moving on. Part 5, the final accounting. The final phone call came in April. Mikal's voice was hushed, terrified. Kim, don't call me anymore. Monique found a receipt. I told her it was a business expense, but she's suspicious. We're going to counseling. I have to make this work for the sake of the kids. I'm sorry. I really did love you. Kim listened to the dial tone. He had his life. He had his wife. He had his word, which he had successfully used to keep Kim waiting until he was ready to discard her. Kim looked around her small, empty apartment. She had no husband. She had no home. She had lost her reputation in the divorce, as Craig had told everyone the truth. She was the woman who threw away a good man for a ghost. Part 6, the market and the mirror. 6 months later, a sun-drenched outdoor market. Kim was buying produce when she spotted Craig. He looked different. The husband slouch was gone. He was laughing with a woman beside him, a woman who looked like she belonged there. Kim watched him buy sunflowers. She realized she had hoped his life would be a ruin. Instead, she saw that she had been the storm, and now that the storm had passed, he was finally enjoying the sun. Craig caught her eye. He didn't scowl. He didn't look away in shame. He gave her a single polite, distant nod. It was the nod you give to a stranger you once knew in another life. That nod was the final nail. Kim walked away and cried in her car. She wasn't crying for Mikal. She was crying because she realized she had traded a kingdom for a lie. She was exactly where she had put herself, alone. This is why the nod at the market, months later, was so lethal. When Kim saw Craig with that woman, she realized she wasn't just seeing her ex-husband. She was seeing the life she had forfeited. She was seeing the warmth, the loyalty, and the boring safety she had mocked. She looked back at the woman Craig was with. She wasn't wearing high-end architect clothes. She wasn't sharp like Kim. But she was listening to him. She was laughing with him. She was holding his hand with a casual, permanent grip. Kim looked down at her own hands. They were empty. No ring, no Mikal, no Craig, just the cold, hard reality of her own reflection in a puddle on the pavement. Sometimes, the hardest part of a story isn't the ending. It's the epilogue where you realize you were the only one who didn't get a happy one. I'm Palmer Weicha Mims. Thank you for walking this dark path with me today. If this story moved you, or if you've ever felt the weight of a choice you can't undo, leave a comment below. I'll see you this Wednesday for our next journey. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other.